Old rivals. It was a cold, crisp night in the yards. The sheds were bare. Only one engine, though. Fred the 4F was resting quietly all alone. But he wasn't alone for long. An unfamiliar chime whistle roared through the darkness. Fred was taken by surprise. "Who's there?" he shouted. No one replied, but Fred soon got an answer. Backing onto the yard was an ex-LNER A4 Pacific. Fred instantly recognized the pride of the LNER fleet, with its streamlined body, corridor tender, and huge driving wheels. Fred was secretly impressed by the visitor, but also confused. Why was this engine here? The curious freight engine wanted to say hello, but for some reason it didn't feel right. The A4 looked agitated in its new surroundings. Fred could see that the ex-LNER engine was feeling uncomfortable in ex-LMS territory. Finally, Fred plucked up the courage to introduce himself. "Hello, I'm Fred," he called. The A4 said nothing. "I say," called Fred again, "hello there." Rudely, the visitor let off steam and rolled out of the yard. Fred was left speechless. He was only trying to be polite. The shedmaster came over to speak to Fred. "Hello there. You look hurt," he asked. "I am," huffed Fred. "That A4 was very rude. Which one was it? I have a good mind to follow that engine and give it a piece of my mind." "That was Sir Nigel Gresley," said the shedmaster. Fred sighed. He knew he couldn't do anything about it. He watched the shedmaster walk to his office, then silently fell asleep. The next morning, Fred told the others about the A4. William felt insulted by the tale. "Trust an LNER engine to be snotty around an LMS engine," he snapped. "It's a good job he left before I got to him." "Don't talk such rubbish," said Jimmy. "You can be pompous at times." William glared at Jimmy. "I knew you wouldn't understand." "What I don't understand is why he was so rude," puffed Ivett. "We're not rival companies anymore. We're British Railways, all working together. Surely you can't still hold a competitive grudge against us." "Quite so," agreed Fred. "I wish I'd told him that last night." Whilst the engines were bickering, they didn't notice another visitor. It was a new, standard 4MT mogul named Ken. He had helped bring a postal train into Euston Station. Frozen points had delayed the train and a fresh engine was needed quickly, so Ken was used and brought the train in. It was built by British Railways and didn't understand why the engines were so upset. When the engines finally noticed Ken, they explained their situation. But still, Ken didn't understand, and a frustrated William snorted out of the yard, soon followed by Ivett, who politely excused himself from the conversation. "I'm sorry," said Ken. "I just don't see what the fuss is all about." "Look, here's the Duchess," called Jimmy. "She'll tell you." The Duchess glided into the sheds, and was told about the event that happened in the night. "Well," said the Duchess, "not all engines can let go of the past. You see, when I myself was streamlined and painted in London, Midland and Scottish Railway maroon livery, I was up against the London North Eastern Railway. Their top link express engines were the A4s, our rivals." The engines listened with interest. The Duchess continued. "Engines would admire our speed and bravery, willing us to beat the opposition. Unfortunately, the LNER won with a record-breaking mallard. But I say good for them," she smiled. "An event that has gone down in history, but there are bad winners." Mallard was gracious and said that this was a record for steam, not her class. But her brothers and sisters were not so kind. It's rare even now for Eastern Pacifics to meet Midland ones, but when they did, some mocked my sisters for being de-streamlined, saying we were second best. "Why were you de-streamlined?" asked Ken. "Because of the war, my dear boy," sighed the Duchess. "It's better we're this shape." All the engines felt sorry for the Duchess. "It's not been easy," sympathised Fred. "I remember when the railway had been nationalised in 1948, that there were still rivals even then. I had help with a coal train and went to rest, but the bigger engines stood in my way and excluded me from the shed. Mind you, we weren't exactly welcoming either," added Fred. "Just look at William, still spiteful to the Eastern engines even now." Jimmy pert things up. "Not all Eastern engines are rude, and I'm sure we're all come together as one whole railway." Everyone smiled and agreed. Ken now fully understood. The engines wished him a safe journey home, and all of them left to start work. After having a hard day's work with the cold weather, William slunked into the shed. He was pleased it was empty. But it wouldn't be for long. The shed master ran up to the cleaners who were about to attend to William. "Another Eastern engine is coming in from a small rail tour. Make sure it's spick and span before it leaves for home." William was outraged. "Why should you bother with an Eastern engine?" "We need to create a good impression and make the engine feel welcome and comfortable," he explained. William huffed as an A3 steamed into the yards. This engine, like the A4, said nothing, and neither did William. He just stared at the intruder. The cleaners started work, but the A3 wished they hadn't. He wanted to leave. He didn't dare make eye contact with William. The Stanier tank was just about to make a sarcastic comment to the engine when Jimmy steamed in. "Hello," he peeped. The A3, taken by surprise that someone was speaking to him, stuttered an unsure, hello. The shed quickly filled up and was full of bright, happy and friendly faces, all doing their own part to build confidence and reassurance for the visitor. Things became better when William was called away to take empty stock away. His berth was taken up by the Duchess, who spoke kindly to the A3. The shed master looked on proudly as his engines were talking like old friends with the A3. They were all sad to see him go, and he promised to tell his friends of how the old rivalries had gone and new friendships found. "What a lovely engine," said Jimmy. "I wish William could have chatted to the A3. He would have learnt a lesson or two," said Fred. "Speak of the devil," teased Jimmy. William clattered in. "Has that A3 gone? Good riddance. I hope he stays away. You know he was called Flying Scotsman. What a load of old rubbish." The engine suddenly jumped in shock. "He was called what?" cried the Duchess. "Flying Scotsman," repeated William. "I mean, who has ever heard of him?" No one said a word.